Jack is a great guy. He's written a fantastic book. Everybody's talking about it. Go get it. And he's been my friend right from the beginning of this whole beautiful event. And we're going to turn it around and make our country great again. Amen.
And we're back with Eva Vlaar. Eva, of course, has abandoned Human Events Daily for the last couple years. She's run back to Europe, but we roped her back in. And
I had something else to do, you know. Got married, had a baby.
I mean, come on, right?
I think they're good excuses.
Somebody was running around saying, "Be a rebel, start a family," and then someone decided to listen.
My goodness.
These things, I don't know how they happen. But what's amazing is. So we've been talking about some of the, obviously, the horrific things that happened to Charlie, the horrific things that happened to great patriots in your home country. But there is something amazing that's happened, and that's been in the wake of Charlie's murder, in the wake of his assassination, we've seen this just global movement, I would say, of people who are now waking up to the real truth of leftist political violence that's going on, and Islamist political violence, which is also something that we're facing. But at the same, and you look at the people talking about the grooming gangs in London, which has of course been Tommy's story from day one, right. and the fact that is now a mainstream story, a mainstream scandal. Keir Starmer, of course, pushing these crazy Netflix videos to try to, it's white children and white boys, that's who's doing it, and people can just see the truth. And there is now a youth movement that's, to my mind, as an outsider, it seems like it's all across Europe, fighting for remigration, fighting for truth, for the historic native lands of the European people, which is something that if you said publicly 10 years ago, I mean, you would be censored, you'd be banned, you'd be silenced, you'd be ostracized from society.
That's absolutely right.
And now it's the #1 movement. Tell us what's going on.
I mean, the things that Wilders, for example, was vilified for so many years was in like a cordon sanitaire, right, as we always say. He was completely ostracized. Those things are like nothing compared to the stuff that we now say on the right? Like he was just saying like, okay,
like what
would
you say?
No, but like, we're not just talking anymore about like, oh, maybe there are some cultural differences between people who come from, an Islamic background and Christians. We're saying, no, look, we're about to become minorities in our own countries. We need remigration.
Well, we see it in New York City right now. We see it in New York City right now, where next week we are going to have a foreign-born Muslim will become, and I think more than likely will become the mayor of America's greatest city.
Right. No, but we are having, that's the thing. I think it's a good sign, right? That we have all these young people, especially also what happened to Charlie. I think it was the ultimate sign, once again, that it doesn't matter how reasonable you are, because Charlie was an extremely reasonable young man, right?
He's far more reasonable than me. I'm not very reasonable at all.
I think that I could count myself more in your part, in your side of the game in that sense. But they still killed him, right? So I think that that's what people also realize now, that you might as well just say what you really want to say. And so if things have become more normalized, the Overton window has been pushed. We in Europe are having actual conversations now, which is absolutely necessary, about how civic nationalism just doesn't work, not at this rate. Like we cannot talk about assimilation and integration of millions and millions of foreign young men. It just doesn't work. Once white people in their own homelands become minorities, we have a real issue on our hands, right? Because that means that those countries are not going to be the countries that they always have been.
I'll give you a great example that we're seeing in New York right now, because when you look at this race, so there's 2 Democrats that are in the lead. There's also 1 Republican, and so it's a split 3-way race. But when you look at the 2 Democrats, the native-born New Yorkers are going for Cuomo, who is the son of the former governor, and he was a former governor himself. The foreign-born New Yorkers are almost 100% in lockstep for the immigrant candidate. This guy is as far left as they come. He is a cultural Marxist. And by the way, people say, oh, no, it's just about economics and housing, and that's all he cares about. You can go look at his timeline. This guy is targeted white people. He said that the NYPD is the tool of the IDF. Right. He says that he is going to confiscate the wealth specifically from white people and hand it out to everybody else. He had a line in 2020. He said, the black and brown alliance will defeat white supremacy. He's been very clear about where he stands. And yes, he's charming, and he puts on these affectations like, oh, he's just a nice, normal, regular guy. But you can just roll back the clock to, oh, I don't know, about 6 months ago, and he's been using all of this rhetoric. This is, and I keep saying, it's Radio Rwanda for white people, and that's exactly what's going to happen in New York City when he becomes mayor. Yeah. And I think it's because you guys in Europe have seen all of these issues across so many cities, obviously London.
On national level now.
And national level.
We're not just talking about the big cities anymore. And that's, I think, what people of New York need to understand. It's not just New York. Like, it's going to come to the countryside, too. If you look at what is happening in Europe, all of the assaults that we're talking about, yes, right? The rapes, the murders, they used to happen in the big cities alone. Let's say 20 years ago, we already saw that connection between crime and immigration. Now it's happening in the countrysides. So the message, I think, that the people
in Ireland, it's everywhere.
Everywhere. So the message that the people who are pushing this agenda want to give you is that you can't hide. Like that little, quaint Dutch town with the windmills in the back, you're not safe there either anymore. Like that's over. And so, of course, you need to stop it now in New York before it spreads out and you're not safe anywhere anymore, because that is our situation now. We are no longer in the position to say, okay, we need to close the borders and that's fine, that's enough. It's not going to be enough. Like with our demographics in Northwestern Europe, every single country is heading for becoming a minority in their own, like for the native population to become a minority in their own country by the end of this century, and oftentimes even before the first half of this century ends. So we're talking 25 years.
And you look at the school classes, these photos of, here's what this school class looks like, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, and suddenly you're saying, wait a minute, if I'm looking at the other side, where are the Dutch kids? If I'm looking at England, so where are the British kids? We look at Ireland, where are the Irish kids?
And why wouldn't we be allowed to say that we want that? Why wouldn't we as Dutch people, as the Dutch native people be able to say, we want the Netherlands to stay Dutch? Why wouldn't we be able to say we want Germany to say German, we want France to say French? I think it's common sense, and I think it's fair.
You never hear these issues with the Asian countries. No one ever says this about China. No one ever says this about Japan. No one ever says, which has incredibly low immigration. China, of course, has been having their economic boom without needing migrants. Funny how that works, because that they're able to do so.
Diversity means less white people. This is specifically an agenda targeting white people, and I can say that as a European. Like, just look at the numbers. It's right there. And that's something that I'm worried about, and I would like your opinion on that, Jack. Like, give us some advice. Because, yes, it's true that we are now having these discussions. Like, we're pushing the Overton window. The youth is waking up. But institutionally, we're not gaining much ground. Like, when we're talking about the regulations, when we're talking about the EU, when we're talking about our governments, like this is still happening. And we're running out of time really, really quickly. So I don't know if the young generation that is maybe has woken up to this fact is going to grow up fast enough to get into those positions of power to make change. That's like my main worry right now for us.
Look, I would say you just have to fight hard and hold the line wherever it is and hold people's feet to their fire. And you look, by the way, it's that the youth movement in some countries has been very successful. You look at AfD, you even look at the youth movement in Poland, for example. Poland, a country which, funny enough, doesn't have these problems because they never accepted the migrants. And when I go to Poland, it's wonderful. I was there several times this year for the election and then the inauguration of Nawrocki, huge win. All of these issues came up during the election, and it's perfectly safe when you walk around Warsaw any time of night. Tanya and I got 6 million videos for just a video of us walking around on like a Saturday night at midnight, and everyone's out, they're having fun. No crime whatsoever, and the economy is booming. It's absolutely booming. And you look at their youth movement, it started with youth marches, just like what Tommy did in London, and they were able to leverage that into actually getting into political power. Right. And from there, now they have influence on the institutions, because even if, and in multi-party democracy, even if they can't form a government, what they can do is be kingmakers. What they can do is hold that influence. And I look at everything that you're doing and so many of the other freedom fighters. I'm going to come back to Europe soon. We'll be there. It's great. Eva Vlaar, thank you so much for rejoining your former podcast, Human Events Daily.
We should do this more often. Thanks, Jack.